Ave Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
There was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding. When the wine ran short, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, how does your concern affect me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servers, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for Jewish ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told them, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it. And when the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine, without knowing where it came from, although the servers who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and then when people have drunk freely, an inferior one. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this as the beginning of his signs at Cana in Galilee, and so revealed his glory, and his disciples began to believe in him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
St. John tells us that this is the first miracle that Jesus does in the Gospel of John, his first experience of something miraculous, changing water into wine. And it's a very beautiful gospel to meditate on. I was thinking all of Jesus' miracles seem to be something very profound. There's a guy who has a hand that's maimed, it's healed. There's a paralytic, he's able to walk again. There's a boy or a man possessed with evil spirits, they're expelled. They go out of him. There are people that are dead, and Jesus prays to the Father, and they're alive again. They're all very significant and have a huge impact on people's lives. What is so special about this? We're at an ordinary wedding, just an ordinary wedding where wine is about to be depleted. They've drunken all the wine. And what I love about it, it's Mother Mary. That's what we hear in the gospel today. Mother Mary is looking out for her friends. Again, it's nothing significant. But Mary was so concerned about her friends' reputation, about them feeling bad about running out of wine, that she intercedes. She goes to Jesus. And when she goes to Jesus' son, there is about to be no wine. And there's a little dialogue between them. I won't get in that today because that would be a whole different homily. But Jesus does what his mom asks. And not only is there an abundance of wine, gallons and gallons of wine. They probably could have had 5 or 6 more wedding parties join them. But it's the best wine, the greatest wine. And I was thinking how much Mother Mary and Jesus care about the very small details of our lives. The ordinariness, we're told very often, finding the presence of God in the ordinary activities. And this confirms it. This confirms that they care about the smallest details of our lives. In 1886, after Christmas midnight mass, a 14-year-old girl named Therese, during the mass at communion, she heard Jesus tell her to be courageous as she was receiving communion. She heard Jesus tell her, it's time to move on. It's time to have courage. He was preparing her for a great healing because he had great plans, and she only lived to be 24 years old, so things needed to happen quickly. And what was wrong with Therese? Therese had some emotional illness. A lot of it stemmed from loss. When she was a newborn baby, she was taken away from her mom. The mom couldn't feed her. She was taken away for months. So she didn't have that original bonding with her mom. And then when she was brought to her mom, even though she was a little baby, that was emotional for her because the mom was like a stranger. Then she bonded with her mom, and then at 4 years old, her mom died of breast cancer. That was very traumatic for her, but she had 2 older sisters. She kind of clung on to them, and then they both left to become Carmelite nuns. So Therese had developed this, she calls an oversensitivity, dramatic about everything, crying about everything. And Jesus told her, at 14 years old, midnight mass, Therese, it's time to move on from that. She came home. She didn't know her father was talking about her. I mean, she knew her father was talking about her. He didn't know she was in the next room. And he said something insensitive, and she felt it. She felt that hurt. But she remembered what Jesus told her at Mass. And so she went in and celebrated Christmas, put a smile on, and she said, even if I feel this, I'm going to have courage. And that moment, she was healed. Now, to the whole world in 1886, that was not going to make headlines. It wasn't some major healing. She didn't rise from the dead. Maybe that would have. But it was significant. We needed that moment for her healing because that put her on the path for becoming a Carmelite nun and to give us the beautiful spirituality of the little way, childlike trust in the Father in all things. And she would also become a doctor of the church. She was open, and she listened and was open to the Holy Spirit, to Jesus speaking to her, to say, Therese, it's time to move on. Just in the every ordinary moment of her life. Coming to a Christmas Mass, of course, is extraordinary, but she was going to Mass like everyone else, and something extraordinary happened in her heart. My brothers and sisters, Jesus, the good news, he is concerned, and Mother Mary are concerned about the everyday details of our lives, no matter how insignificant, and call us every day to a deeper and deeper confidence, a deeper and deeper trust in them. I had an interesting experience about a couple nights ago. I received a phone call. It was a voice message that was left. And I listened to the voice message, and I had a misunderstanding what was said. And so I tried to call the person back. It wasn't earth-shattering. It would not have made WMUR. It would have been on the union leader. But it was a worry or concern that I misunderstood in the message. And so as the evening went on and I couldn't get in touch with that person, I got consumed by it. Probably has never happened to you, right? You never have worries that just kind of play over and over. And I could barely sleep. And I got up the next morning. I had the Friday morning Mass. And I'm trying to pray, and I'm trying to prepare for my homily, and then I start going down that path again. And I'm like, I can't do this. I need to be concentrated for Mass. And I have next to my chair this beautiful image of Our Lady Undoer of Knots. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that devotion, but it's Mother Mary, and there's these knots which represent the knots in our life, and she's undoing them. And I looked at her, and I said, Mother Mary, undo this. Please undo this so that I can pray the Holy Mass and not be distracted. And if you can also, if you have time, deal with the situation, make that come out all right. So I went to Holy Mass, and I was able to pray and experience a wonderful Mass, and I came back to the rectory, and I was filled with peace. I was able to eat, and then a little bit after noon, the person called me, and it was completely different from what I thought. Completely different. My mind took it in a completely different place. My point, Mother Mary and Jesus met me. They encountered me in that seemingly insignificant situation because that's their desire. They want to do that for us. They truly do care. They're not like the Greek gods, right, that are unreachable. We just celebrated Christmas, the Incarnation. Emmanuel, God is with us. And my brothers and sisters, sometimes he doesn't maybe take away the particular thing we're bringing to him for prayer. Maybe the situation, the suffering, we still have to go through that. But we go through that with them. We have two hands. We give one hand to Jesus, one to Mary, and they will walk us through any situation. But what they can do, as Jesus today, as Jesus was able to change very easily lots of water into the best, most precious wine, he can come into our lives. Maybe he won't take the problem away, but he can change our hearts. He can have our hearts with the Holy Spirit become full of courage, full of wisdom, full of strength, maybe even some joy in the midst of it, because that is his desire, to encounter us so that we may have confidence and trust in him. We celebrate today this holy miracle of the Eucharist, like every Mass. And it seems insignificant. WMUR, they're not outside ready to talk to you after Mass and say, what was it like? Bread and wine, it became Jesus. Tell us your thoughts. Union leaders not out there about to ask you the same thing. But we come here week after week, some of us day after day, because what we believe is so ordinary and insignificant. Bread, wine, a man priest who says some words, and something amazing and miraculous happens. And we get the greatest encounter, the living Jesus, the bread come down from heaven, the living Holy Spirit that encounters our minds and our hearts so that we may little by little in our ordinary ways when we go out there experience him and grow in Christian love, grow in him. May the Eucharist that we receive today help us to grow in childlike trust, that same trust that is the little way that little Saint Therese, who looked so ordinary, who became a doctor of the Church, teaches us.
Regina Celi, let us quem